Welcome to the Stokvels Show. I'm your host, Gerald, Mr. G. Mandiambira, and this week we're looking into the future. Over the past couple of weeks, we have been guiding you as to how to best nurture and grow your Stokvels into becoming valuable entities. Now we look at what lies ahead. Joining me for this discussion is Ms. Promise Mantome from UMS, and she's the Stokvel Project Manager. Hello, Promise.
Hello, Mr. G.
And we've got Ms. Mpumi Shange, who's CEO of Expressive Through the Line Agency, who deal extensively with Stokvels. And we've got our resident experts from NASASA. And today we've got Mizi Mchali, who's the COO of NASASA. Hello, Mizi.
Hi, thank you.
Now today we're really looking into the future. We're going to try and see what lies ahead. Now over this series we've discussed everything from the dangers, the risks and opportunities which affect Stokvels. Now as NASASA, what's your outlook in terms of where Stokvels are going in the future?
I think the most important thing is bridging that gap between the Stokvel members as well as services and opportunities from especially the corporate sector. I think that a lot of corporates, as much as they're interested in dealing and adding value to Stokvels, they don't have the systems in place to actually do this. So what they do rather is they go into the Stokvel sector and they target people as individuals, which breaks the system that has been built by Stokvels. For instance, you know, with burial societies, your insurance companies will come in and not deal with the burial society as a burial society at group level. They'll come in and effectively they'll poach individuals. At the end of the day, they'll say that we have accessed the Stokvel market and we have X amount of Stokvel members, but those are individuals. As individuals, people tend to behave differently to how they behave in the group context. And the more companies are able to understand that you deal with the Stokvel group at group level, the better, the more they can actually onboard Stokvel as groups and add value to their lives, and also allow the group at group level to interact with them. So what happens is that the burial societies at some point fall out with these insurance companies that target them because they've broken their structure. And at the same time, very importantly, those individuals who've been poached don't have loyalty towards the financial services provider. They have loyalty at group level. So they will breach their agreement with that provider because it was not done through the group. But when you do things through the group, their loyalty is with the group. They dare not miss a payment at group level, but they'll default everybody else. So I think the understanding of how a Stokvel group works is going to be important for the corporate world to be able to onboard Stokvel groups and actually add value without breaking up the system. So we are doing a lot of work in terms of educating various companies who say we're interested in Stokvel groups. We don't have the systems and the know-how to bring them in, and we don't know what to do for them once they're in our system. So what we do a lot is actually advise companies to say, this is how to deal with the group at group level to add value. So we think that it's a small step forward, but it's a very important step forward because it gives Stokvel members access to opportunities that they wouldn't have access to alone.
Now, Mpumi, your company, Expressive Through the Line or Solutions, deals extensively with multinationals and very big corporates dealing with Stokvels. Would you agree with what Mizi is saying? And in terms of your experience over the years, what's changed and what's looking good?
If you look at Stokvels, I mean, it's quite a big market. We're looking at 44 billion rand. Everyone is trying to reach them. There are very few channels that have gotten it right in terms of how to get to Stokvels. With us, for instance, we work with Unilever as an example. We've put together programs for them to be able to access Stokvels, but also it's a win-win relationship whereby Stokvels have got something in it and the corporate sector has got something in it. We also work with Pioneer Foods and a few others. So based on what he's saying, he is right. You cannot target individuals. You have to target Stokvels. And there are dynamics within a group, obviously, that enforce a certain level of conformity, So they've got standards in terms of, okay, this is what we've got to do. If buying Unilever products, for instance, is going to give us the benefit of a rebate of 5%, that's a benefit for the group. And anyone who does not conform, who doesn't want to match up to that or live up to that, obviously is failing the group, where they could get extra money. On the other hand, brands are actually benefiting from the fact that you know, they get loyalty from the Stokvels. So it's a win. We're just looking for partnerships. That's the main thing. Win-win partnerships, whether we're working with the government or we're working with the private sector.
So essentially, the days of exploiting Stokvels are over. The Stokvels want partnerships which allow them to grow and allow the business to benefit. Now, you're from a business which basically services Stokvels from a retail side. What do you see as the future for Stokvels in that relationship?
Well, what I can tell you, Mr. G, is that, you know, we've got a lot of Stokvel clubs that are buying through our stores, our power trade stores, our, you know, Best Buy stores. So what they try to do is actually build the relationship with the members, and they negotiate deals with them. You know, they can go into a store and say, okay, I'm going to come and spend 1.5 million in your store towards my, you know, end of the year groceries. What are you giving me? What am I benefiting out of this? Which is something really good, like Umampume is saying. Though the clubs are not just only looking at spending money in a particular store. They are saying, yes, we want to buy this product at this particular store, but then what are we getting out of it? Because if you look at the retail stores, there are a million, gazillion stores out there, so they can decide to go buy anyway. So if they decide to come to a particular store, they want something in return, not only in terms of money. It can be, you know, loyalty for the store. It can be rebates. It can be anything that they can use that will benefit the whole group.
Now, it looks, Mizi, quite clear that the retail corporates are a bit further ahead than, for example, financial services, which you gave as an example, because obviously retail has always been the obvious in terms of targeting the Stokvel money. Do the financial services companies need to also start looking at similar models when dealing with Stokvels?
I think it's been a natural relationship between the retailers and the Stokvel groups. The fact is that a grocery Stokvel group, that constitutes about 20% of all Stokvel groups, their primary objective is to buy goods during what you call the Stokvel seasons. So they will naturally go to different retailers until they start hearing that there's a type of retailer where you can get better deals. Those would be your cash and carries and your wholesalers. So a lot of them would gravitate towards that. So it's not to say that the retailers had gone out to say, let's attract and let's deal with Stokvel groups. The groups had come to them. And because they're in the business of selling goods, they will accommodate the request of those groups. So what happens a lot is that the groups would come to the retailer or the wholesaler, and they would actually bank their money with the wholesaler. Sometimes it's for security reasons and trust issues within the group, but they will say, can we put our money with you? And therefore, the retailer then develops systems to say, yes, let's create a facility where we can allow groups to come on a monthly basis and make their deposits with us and actually build up their books until they make their purchase at the end. The disadvantage there is that the groups are actually giving their money to the wholesalers, and the wholesalers are the ones gaining interest.
Yeah, because the wholesalers get the interest now through the year. Now, moving away from the business side of Stokvel, let's go into the group dynamics. Now, from your experience, Mampumi, are the group dynamics changing? You know, with AMA constitutions required in the Stokvel, is the Stokvel still purely a social group? And looking ahead, is this likely to continue?
I think it depends on the LSM profile of the group. You find that there are those who are more learned, and they're putting systems, you know, they're becoming very aggressive in terms of being businesses, in terms of being structured very well and getting something out there that's more than what a Gogo Stokvel, for instance, will be looking for. What you find is that LSMC, for instance, is very much about survival. So we want a Stokvel just to cater for groceries, cater for basic needs. But then you're getting a lot more of the 40-year-olds, you know, who are out there to look for opportunities, you know, with the government having all these sort of opportunities. So they want to get into the business sector. They're saving money to buy land. They're saving money to buy B&Bs, you know, like she was saying earlier on.
Now looking at Promise and the younger market.
That's us.
That's you.
That's the future.
Oh, that's us. Eh?
We are the future.
I'll be young forever. Now, how is the Youth League of the Stokvel movement looking?
You would be so surprised. The Youth League of the Stokvels is so big. You know, I was saying to my little sister last week, you need to start getting into the Stokvel as well, because you are also growing. It's not for me that is doing it for yourself. You need to do it yourself. So our mothers taught us, I mean, I knew Stokvel from when I was the age of 2 years or 3. To come and have this party. For me, it was just a party. But then it's not only about that. It's about, you know, growing each other and all that stuff. So we are doing it now as the, I would say 30 plus, you know, age group. I'm not giving away my age. But then we are the future of the Stokvels. I see ourselves looking at what our mothers and fathers did through society, whether it's just a social club. And you go into the locations, you see how many social clubs are there. And it's not for the elders, it's actually for our age group, which is amazing. You can see that this is not going to die. It's actually growing, you know, year by year. And we're still going to be educating our kids that this friend of mine who was saying, yes, I promise I'm paying imali society, but I don't know what is it for, because my mom is forcing me to pay it. And that is what our parents are installing in us and saying, the Stokvel is it's our heredity. It's us. We are going to do it.
So the Stokvel is our heritage. We'll pick that up after the break. We'll be back with more. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Stokvel Show, and today we're discussing a sneak peek into the future of our Stokvels. Now, Promise Mantome from UMS was sharing with us that the youth is becoming much stronger in Stokvel. Does this mean that Stokvel is alive and well?
Stokvel has been existing for I don't know how many years, and it's not about to die anytime soon. Like I'm saying to you, we are educating, or we are going to educate the next generation that this is a legacy that our parents left us, and we must continue that legacy. It's not going to die.
Now, Mampume, we're also finding a trend now that Stokvel, or the savings group, is reaching right up into the high LSMs. And also you're tending to find now that individuals are joining more than one type of Stokvel. Is this the future?
Definitely, because I was thinking when she was talking about the Stokvels for the youth, you know, they've got different needs. A Stokvel I see it as a vehicle that where people collaborate in order to meet a particular need. For our mothers and grandmothers, it was mainly about buying groceries. Others, it's party, others, it's whatever. But one of the needs, I think, for the youth in particular is there's unemployment, there's high unemployment. What can they do? They can form Stokvels, save money, or do businesses, you know, with common interest, obviously, to make sure that, you know, they don't stay out of the market or they don't look for jobs. I think we need to start using the Stokvel vehicle to create a society that creates jobs rather than look for jobs.
Now, you can hear what the ladies are saying, that Stokvel is alive and healthy. But if you look at the South African economy, Mizi, there's a few challenges. We're going into a time where the economy is slowing down, things are getting harder. You know, what's your take on what Stokvel members should be doing at this time, looking ahead into tougher times ahead?
I think Stokvel groups perform the primary function of saving money together, and that is good. That they've done really well. The problem comes, and we were in Orange Farm this weekend speaking to various Stokvel groups during our Stokvel Indaba, and what came up is that as much as we can save our money or collect our cash and put it into, let's say, the bank, what kills us is inflation. You see, so the rate at which the money grows when we put it away is you cannot beat inflation at this point. And that becomes a problem. So your 200 rands that you put in is no longer worth what 200 rands was worth a year ago. And that's what we need to look at. Look at vehicles to say, where do you put your money? And where your money is, how fast is it growing? Are you beating inflation? Because that's a fundamental.
So inflation is a major challenge, eating and eroding the capital and wealth of the Stokvels. What is NASASA doing in terms of looking ahead? Because if you look at the Stokvel account, the interest rate is 4.5%.
Yes.
Less than inflation. That's before fees. So which means that every Stokvel with a bank account in Mzansi is not actually growing their money, they are losing money. Is NASASA taking up that advocacy?
Yes, we've tried to take that up with the banks themselves, and we haven't really gone that far. Or we got to a point where some of the banks have been uncooperative. But there are other solutions. So we have actually been engaged with Alexander Forbes Investment Solutions. And Investment Solutions has now offered a unit trust facility for Stokvel groups, and our members are actually joining that and saving their money rather in an investment vehicle rather than in the traditional banks, because a lot more can happen with your cash when you're sitting with someone like Investment Solutions, who is a multi-manager and is able to actually move Stokvel Group's money and place it, in the areas where it would grow. So we got into discussions with various investment companies. The first set of investment companies we speak to would say to us, we're not interested in the Stokvel market. The second set says to us, we're interested, but we don't have the systems in place in order to accommodate them. So they're here, but we don't know what to do with them and for them. Fortunately, when we got to Investment Solutions, they said to us, we are interested in the Stokvel market. We don't yet have the systems to onboard them and add value to their lives, but can we engage with the association to find ways? So it's an example of how we develop products with corporates to say, okay, how are they going to now onboard our members, and what should they do for them in order to add real value? So we've now created a facility with Investment Solutions that's able to now onboard Stokvel groups, and a lot of them are putting their money there, and they're finding that it's a better solution than keeping your money in the bank or even keeping it with the wholesalers. So we have
changes coming. So basically, if you are a Stokvel treasurer watching the show today, you need to check with your bank what interest rate you're getting. If your interest rate in your account is less than 5%, it means that your money is actually not growing, and maybe you need to start looking at alternative solutions. Now, looking ahead again, Mam Pume, we need to look at the future of Stokvels in terms of how corporates see them. Now, obviously, with the retailers or the manufacturers, they see them as a growing market. Do you see Stokvels remaining buyers? Because one of the biggest criticisms of Stokvels has been that every year it's seasonal buying. So yes, you're talking about these great Stokvels who buy 1.5 million rand worth of groceries, but zero account in the balance come January. What's happening to change this trend? Because surely we can't have a system where you raise a huge amount of money only to start again next year.
Personally, I don't see anything wrong with that because what they're doing is, what are the benefits of this bulk buying? Firstly, they get discounts they wouldn't get in their personal capacity. So I honestly have no problem with the fact that they use all the money in December. Secondly, they provide, it kind of allows them to be able to provide for their children for December, January and February while they are paying school fees. So I see it as a vehicle that actually meets some of their needs that they wouldn't be able to meet as individuals. I'll give you an example. The Stokvel I played last year, I paid about 2,500 and I got 5,000 rand worth of groceries. How we did that, I think it's mainly because they loan out the money, but over and above that, it's the fact that they get discounts. So there's a lot of value that you get that you wouldn't get in an individual capacity or outside of the Stokvel
Now,
system.
Promise, coming through representing the retail sector, your sector is extremely competitive. What are you finding between yourselves and your other competitors in terms of how you're dealing with Stokvels in 30 seconds?
Basically, what we are offering our Stokvel clubs, I would say we've got a competitive advantage in terms of deliveries, in terms of negotiating price with them, and because we are a wholesaler, we do bulk buying. So we offer them bulk buying more than I would say your normal retail store would offer them. So in a nutshell, we are doing something good.
Okay, now in terms of talking and communicating with your Stokvel members, obviously you've got your magazine. What's it called again?
Sonke.
Sonke magazine, and it basically speaks to your members. Are you using this as a channel to talk to Stokvels?
Definitely, that's our primary, one of our primary channels to speak to Stokvels. It has a reach of 50,000. So we distribute 50,000 copies nationally through our network of field agents who live and work in the major townships around South Africa. So, I mean, the way we communicate with our Stokvel groups, we have a database of over 110,000 Stokvel groups. Our call center communicates, with them telephonically. We send SMSs and emails out to them, but we use the call center to set up meetings for our field agents. So our magazine is distributed to Stokvel members in the context of the Stokvel meeting.
Okay.
So we use that vehicle to effect change as well. I mean, some of the things that we have in our magazine is a group constitution. Groups might come and say, somebody's run away with the money, this and that has happened, and we say to them, do you have a constitution? The answer is usually no. So we provide tools like that to say, here's a template, use that in order to create your own group constitution. So when our field agents visit the groups, they're not just handing out a magazine. They're saying, can I take you to the center page? Look at the constitution. If you would like to create your own, here's a template, and I can guide you through that process. So it's things like that. I mean, in our fight against, investment
pyramid schemes,
products
etc.
that are not, pyramid schemes, we put that information in our magazine to say, this is what to look out for. And we go out into the community and actually talk about what a real investment is versus something which is not realistic. So there's lots of things that we do in our magazine, and that just reflects what we feel we need to communicate to Stokvel members in general.
So definitely, communication is really important, and there are various mediums now available, including the Nasasa magazine, in order to inform and educate Stokvels. Now it's time for our fact check once again. This week we round up a few facts about the Stokvel environment. Now nearly half of all black South Africans are members of Stokvels and burial societies, while over half of Stokvel members are women, and half of all Stokvel members live in Gauteng and KZN. Of the unbanked members of Stokvels, unemployed members contribute more than those who are employed, and some Stokvels and burial societies have grown into sophisticated micro-lending schemes. Stokvels are already evolving into sophisticated businesses, but without losing their communal and community character. All this tells us that there's still a huge market in Stokvels and growth potential. If you're not part of one Stokvel, and you may be missing out on the diamonds that are growing and being discovered in our own backyard. Let's meet up with our valued sponsors of the Stokvel show, AVBOB, and hear what they have to say about the future of Stokvels in South Africa.
The origination of AVBOB, quite interestingly enough, we started in 1918 as a Stokvel ourselves, or as a burial society ourselves. So the association with the Stokvels is quite a good one, because as you are aware, that Stokvels actually originate from a community forming a society based on their common purpose. And also in terms of the future of Stokvels and how AVBOB can work together with Stokvels, is that we're seeing an opportunity in the growth that is currently happening in the Stokvel market. We are seeing that 65% of the Stokvel savings are actually towards the burial society. And we are seeing that with the regulation that is currently being implemented in South Africa, especially around financial services or providers of financial services, we're seeing that the Stokvel segment, or the Stokvel market, is also going to be affected in long term in making sure that they abide by the rules of the legislation. So that's one of the things that I do believe that Stokvels need to obviously start preparing themselves so that they can be better equipped to be able to comply to the regulations. My real suggestion and advice that I would give to the Stokvels out there is to really do their due diligence when associating and aligning themselves with a funeral service provider that they appoint for their members. They should really look at the capability and the ability and the business ethics that a particular funeral provider carries out, because as you know, we're in a business that is quite emotional, and they need to make sure that the funeral parlors is reputable and can be able to provide the services that the members require.
Basically, the future of Stokvels is definitely bright. Now, last word from you, Mampume, in 30 seconds. What are the big corporates doing to talk to and communicate with Stokvels, just like NASASA is doing?
Okay. Basically, they come to us and they partner with us. We normally develop very good programs that are win-win, as I said. An example is with Unilever, for instance. If you buy Unilever products, you get a rebate of 5%. And, you know, we've actually distributed over 300,000 rands just last year back to Stokvels. That's money that they wouldn't have had. But over and above that, I also want to encourage Stokvels, you know, to use the power of unity. You know, we're talking about 44 billion rand industry, yet we don't own any properties. We don't own anything that is tangible in the economy. So take 10% of that. Let's join forces and become one. And then we own 4 billion rands worth of property.
Okay, the final sentence to your viewers.
It's December time right now. It's approaching. And they're going to be doing a lot of bulk buying. What I would advise our Stokvel clubs is be very careful of how you handle your money when you go into our retail stores to buy, because we know December is a rough time and we want to be spending a lot of money. Make sure that you buy your selected products. Don't, as Mampume is saying, let's be united. Unite and have fun in your shopping and enjoy your festive shopping, I guess.
Definitely. Stokvels, the group becomes one. I'd like to thank our guests, Mizi from NASASA, Mampume from Expressive, and also Promise from UMS. We thank you and take care and goodbye.